Such a silly girl. It's probably because Mom didn't graduate from Harvard, huh? Karen sneered at her granddaughter Sarah. I've tolerated everything said to me, but it's a different story when she uses Sarah to get at me. We don't need a grandmother who hurt Sarah. I felt a surge of anger, like raising a fist in my mind. I am Susan, a 35-year-old, raising my first grader Sarah while working part-time. My husband Richard is busy with his medical job, so I handle most of the housework and childcare. I adore Sarah, and Richard's appreciative, so I don't really mind our life, except for Karen. One weekday, Karen said, "I absolutely need a ride to the hospital." Since I was off from my part-time job, I drove to pick her up. Waiting in the lounge, Karen, sitting next to me, nudged my shoulder. "Hey, Susan, can you figure out this crossword clue?" "What is it?" I looked down at her crossword magazine, a common sight in bookstores. 1.64 feet tall, over 2.2 pounds. A member of the woodlouse family, and the world's largest isopod. What is it? I'm not sure. What could it be? Karen chuckled at my cluelessness. You don't know? It's the giant isopod. Giant isopod? Is that so? Susan, you're so uninformed. My daughter Lisa knew it. Harvard students are just different. Right. I was utterly fed up with Karen, who enjoyed belittling me. Such attitude towards someone doing her a favor. I should just leave you here. I wanted to say, but swallowed my words and sighed. Karen's disdain for me wasn't new. She always put me down and bragged about Richard's sister Lisa, 2 years his senior. Lisa, a Harvard graduate, now a high-ranking government official. I get being proud of her, even wanting to brag, but Karen's way of boasting always involved demeaning me to praise Lisa, asking questions she knew I couldn't answer, mocking my part-time job, constantly comparing me to Lisa. I was so tired of it. Karen's pride and joy, Lisa, was actually quite reserved. I've met her during Christmas and summer breaks. She mostly stayed in her room or stared blankly into the courtyard at her in-laws. Not much of a talker, it was awkward when left alone with her. Karen, oblivious to our discomfort, always praised Lisa during gatherings. As expected, she seemed to have the arrogance to belittle me in front of Richard. But he simply told me wonderful stories about Lisa from her childhood. It's a story I've heard over and over again. My father-in-law, Daniel, is an easygoing person, and Richard seems to be used to it, so he just listens to it while giving random comments. Lisa, who is supposed to be praised, is silently putting food in her mouth without boasting or belittling about her background. Visits to my in-laws were always uncomfortable. I thought I just needed to endure it. But being ordered around and looked down upon by Karen was reaching my limit. That summer, as usual, we visited Richard's parents, and Lisa was there too. We all sat in the living room drinking coffee. Lisa was, as usual, blankly watching TV. Meanwhile, Sarah was happily chatting with Karen, who listened with a smile. She adored her only granddaughter, and Sarah loved her kind grandma. That's why I couldn't refuse these visits. By the way, Sarah's in first grade now. How's school? Did you get 100 on your tests? Karen asked Sarah. I rolled my eyes at another conversation about academics, but stayed silent. It seemed like an appropriate topic for a first grader, and I didn't think Karen would say anything to hurt her beloved granddaughter. But I was wrong. School's fun, but I got a 90 on my tests. Oh my! Karen's eyes gleamed sharply. What did you get wrong? I did addition instead of subtraction in a math problem. Sarah confessed her careless mistake with a shy smile. Oh dear! Karen narrowed her eyes. Then, with a twisted smirk, she blurted out. Such a silly girl. I guess that's what happens when your mom isn't a Harvard grad. Huh? What? Sarah looked puzzled. I couldn't help but let out a loud sound myself. Seeing us like that, Karen smirked with satisfaction. Her despicable face pushed my anger to its limits. Unbelievable! 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 How much more does she want to look down on me? I've tolerated her belittling me, but I won't forgive her for hurting Sarah. A grandma who prioritizes harassing me over her grandchild's happiness? I won't forgive her. I will never forgive her. Mom, what are you saying? Just as I was about to unleash my anger, Richard intervened and started talking. Ah, the timing. I mentally waved my fist in frustration, glaring at Richard. Oblivious to my glare, Richard earnestly tried to correct Karen's mistake. Susan and Sarah are incredibly smart, maybe even smarter than Lisa. Karen scoffed. Oh, Richard, it's great you want to defend Susan and Sarah, but don't embarrass yourself with lies. Don't be naive. It's not a lie. Susan and Sarah are members of Mensa. Mensa? Lisa leaned forward first, her eyes sparkling as she compared me and Sarah. Meanwhile, Karen stood dumbfounded. Mensa? Yes, Mensa. Apparently, Karen didn't know about Mensa. Mensa is a society for people with high IQs worldwide. It's not odd to know, and I didn't want to stoop to Karen's level by bragging about education. But it irked me that Karen, who's been looking down on me for being ignorant, didn't know. A little payback shouldn't be a problem. Wait, Karen? You don't know about Mensa? And you're Lisa's elite mom? I feigned surprise as I looked at Karen, which seemed to anger her. I know it, that thingy. Richard interjected with a half-laugh. Karen glared at him fiercely. Ignoring her, Lisa began to speak. Mensa is a society only for people with high IQs worldwide. Susan and Sarah got in? Well, yes, I replied, pushed by the unusually excited Lisa, and Karen snapped. What? Some no-name college woman lying? Don't lie. It's not a lie. Look. I showed the membership card on my phone, and Karen snatched it to examine it closely. This is just some edited image you picked up somewhere. Show me the real thing. I don't carry it around like a driver's license. I'm not a show-off like you, Karen. Psst. Lisa burst into laughter at my sarcasm. I was surprised to see her laugh. Of course, Karen glared at us furiously. That. Can't Lisa join too? She's a Harvard grad, an elite. Karen desperately awaited her daughter's yes, but Lisa answered nonchalantly. Impossible. What? But Lisa, you're a Harvard grad, a government official. It's impossible. Mensa members are among the top 2% of the world's population in terms of IQ. 2%? Karen smiled twisted. IQ over 130, I think. 130? Karen was shocked. Her trembling fingers pointed at my face. This woman is special? Impossible, right? She's just a low-level woman who can barely do part-time jobs. Unable to accept the reality in front of her, Karen finally began to openly demean me in front of Richard. Richard, a kind man who loves his family, seemed angry at those harsh words. He brushed away Karen's intrusive finger and pulled me back. Susan is saving her job for me and Sarah. She has passive income. Passive income? Susan holds several patents. Patents? Karen was astonished. Misunderstanding that I was being bragged about, Sarah came closer, wanting to praise too. I'm amazing too. Next month, I'm participating in a mathematics competition hosted by the American Mathematical Society. Participating in a competition hosted by the American Mathematical Society? Yeah, isn't it amazing? Sarah proudly puffed out her chest with joy. Replacing the stunned Karen, Lisa patted Sarah's head. That's impressive for a first grader. Maybe it's Susan's teaching. No, I think it's probably genetic. Mom had trouble with relationships because of her high intelligence. She put me in Mensa so I wouldn't have the same struggles. That's how I realized Sarah's high IQ and put her in Mensa too. I see. Susan, you're blessed with a wonderful, understanding mom. I couldn't quite catch Lisa's softly murmured words and asked again. It's okay. It's about us. What kind of patents do you have, Susan? Industrial? Informational? Well, you see, the usually quiet Lisa, now with sparkling eyes, engaged me in conversation. I, too, was thrilled to talk about my specialty and got carried away. Of course, Karen didn't find it amusing. Lies! No way this woman is more accomplished than my Lisa. It's absolutely absurd. Hey, Mom. Richard frowned, but Karen, in her excited state, didn't notice. Learning that I, whom she had looked down upon, had both a high IQ and patents, she seemed to lose her composure. Having a high IQ doesn't necessarily mean being accomplished. I had trouble making friends as a child. Huh, acting superior because you think you're special. The worst kind of woman. It wasn't modesty, just the truth. I put Sarah in Mensa so she could be herself without struggles. There are indeed people who use their high IQs for prestigious jobs, but many struggle with it. Lisa praised me, but having a high IQ doesn't guarantee admission to Harvard. It's not about who's more impressive. That's why I never retorted to Karen's belittlement. But my statement apparently rubbed Karen, who only measures worth by education, the wrong way. Her face turned red with anger, glaring at me. Richard looked down on her with disdain. It's Mom who's looking down on people. You've been throwing unpleasant words at Susan. But Lisa is incredible. My amazing child that I raised. I thought it was okay for you to be proud of Lisa, Mom, but I won't forgive you for harassing Susan and Sarah. But... Enough. Let's go home, Susan. Yeah. We calmly gathered our things and quickly followed Richard to the car. Lisa, unusually following us to the door, deeply apologized. In the background, Karen, biting her thumbnail, muttered something. Later, I told Richard everything about Karen's behavior, and he apologized. It wasn't just Richard's fault. I hadn't consulted him about it either, thinking it was no big deal. He promised that unless Karen changed, we didn't have to visit the in-laws. Well, it's unlikely that Karen will change. A week after the battle at the in-laws, I received a call from Karen. Of course, it wasn't an apology. Hand over Sarah. Huh? Confused by Karen's absurd demand as soon as I answered the call, she continued without pause. Maybe your IQ is high, but that's it, right? You didn't go to a notable college and didn't provide Sarah with the best education. It's a waste for you to raise Sarah. Huh? That's why I, who got Lisa into Harvard, should raise her. I'll make her a child who contributes to the country. Huh? How carefree can this person be? I was so disappointed that I moved beyond anger to just being dumbfounded. See, you understand, so hand over Sarah. No. Huh? Karen was dumbfounded by my firm refusal. Why she's surprised at being refused is beyond me. Expecting me to hand over Sarah to someone who treats her like an object is absurd. You can't possibly provide a good education. But I got Lisa into Harvard. That's Lisa's achievement, not yours. Do you have anything else to brag about besides Lisa? Karen faltered at my question. Anything? Well, that's... Karen, previously so bold, now stumbled over her words. Nothing, I presume. Karen just uses others to achieve her own goals. Lisa is incredible, but Karen, you are empty and pitiful. Pitiful? Why not improve yourself instead of pushing your ideals on Lisa and Sarah? If you want to serve the country, why not work yourself? How dare you, Susan, to talk like that to Richard's mom? If you're upset, do something remarkable enough to prove me wrong. Why don't you try for Harvard yourself, Karen? Huh? If you're capable of raising a brilliant Lisa and think you can send Sarah to Harvard, surely you can get in, right? if you get into Harvard, I'd be happy to entrust Sarah to you, so I'll be waiting for your admission news. Just wait. Wait a minute. Ignoring Karen's frantic attempt to stop me, I ended the call. Karen kept calling, but each time I dismissed her. I'll listen if it's about Harvard graduate Karen. Apparently, she complained about my rudeness to Richard. Good luck with your entrance exams, who simply replied. Eventually, Karen's calls decreased and peace returned. Or, so I thought. Karen simply changed her tactics. Desperate to one-up me, she urged Lisa to marry quickly and have children, to produce a child smarter and more accomplished than mine. She tried to coax Lisa, but Lisa refused. Rather, Mom forced me to study and deprived me of freedom. I won't do that to my child. Lisa seems to have declared that. Karen, hearing Lisa's true feelings for the first time, was evidently shocked. She had believed her diligent parenting was appreciated by Lisa, but it was a burden to Lisa. Lisa's childhood was heavily restricted with focus on studies. Richard didn't envy Lisa. Lisa being loved by Karen, he sympathized with her overbearing education. Karen is the foolish parent who mistook raising children for playing with dolls. Of course, Karen won't admit her mistakes. Fed up with her foolish mother, Lisa secretly changed jobs and moved away. Shunned by her proud daughter and the only family with her grandchild, Karen spends her days crying in a house no one visits. My parenting wasn't wrong. She clings to her neighbors who, tired of her boasting, show little sympathy. Regardless of Karen's wailing, Daniel remains indifferent. Losing both her bragging rights and audience, Karen must be under tremendous stress. Well, it's all Karen's own doing. How do I know about her downfall? Lisa told me. Hey, is this answer right? Correct. Great job, Sarah. So cute and smart. Recently, Sarah and Lisa have study sessions in our living room. After the incident at the in-laws, Lisa apologized to me. I'm sorry I couldn't stop Karen's rampage before. Lisa had suffered under Karen too, becoming numb and indifferent. But seeing my care for Sarah, she woke up. Lisa and I grew close, chatting over coffee at my house sometimes. Sarah, smart and kind like Lisa, loves studying and talking with her. Lisa's knowledge fascinates Sarah. Lisa, let's do this next. Sure. Sarah excitedly shows Lisa a slightly complicated board game. Watching them, Lisa's eyes are warm. I make Lisa's favorite chamomile tea, contentedly watching this tender scene.